learningwithme.org again. And yeah, so my name is Adere. I guess we just did a little bit of an introduction about ourselves. Deji, would you like to say a bit about yourselves? Because last class, I believe we skipped this a little bit. So yeah, maybe just your name, a hobby. Hopefully you guys, okay, I believe I am heard. Okay, anyways, we'll just continue. So yeah, welcome back. This is day 2. And yeah, so we're learning Python 3. Okay, so last class we discussed what Python is. We learned how we write Python. We installed Python if you didn't already have it. And we talked a bit about just computer programming as a whole in general. Our goals for today's class. So hopefully we can learn what Python functions are. We want to learn how to use a built-in Python function called the print function. We want to learn about Python variables. We want to learn how to assign values to variables. And then we want to learn the main Python data types and how we use them and why they exist. Okay, so we're going to get started with functions. Okay, so functions in the real world. Well, you may not know, but many functions actually exist around us. A function is a reusable action or statement that triggers a series of events. Example of a function could be cleaning your room. So if somebody tells you to clean your room, they're basically, or if your parents tell you to clean your room, they're basically triggering a series of events, I could say, because cleaning your room has many steps. And yeah, so it could be maybe tidying up your floor, sweeping your floor, wiping off desks, stuff like that. So yeah, cleaning your room could be an example of a function because cleaning your room has many steps, and it also varies depending on what type of room you have, or yeah. Okay, so functions in Python. So functions in Python are basically the same, except now it's a reusable block of code that is used to perform a specific action. So a function in Python can only be run when it is called. And in Python, you can actually create your own functions, or you can use functions that are built into Python. Functions can also use arguments. So technically, you could say you're calling on a function when your parents tell you to go clean your room. Or sorry, your parents are calling on a function when they say go clean your room. Yeah, they're essentially calling on a function. Okay, somebody else is joining. Okay, nice to see you here today. Akoji, I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. A joke, I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll just continue going on. Okay, so arguments in Python. So an argument is a value provided to a function when you call it. When we create an argument in Python, we are arguing for that argument to be taken with the function. So continuing on with the previous examples, a possible argument for a function for the function clean room, we're just going to short form go clean room to clean room, could be fast. So that could be an argument for the function. So basically what that function could do, we're just talking hypothetically because we haven't actually made the function. What that function could do is that it could make you skip some steps in cleaning your room. So maybe you're not going to wipe off the desks, or you're only going to wipe up the ones visible. And yeah. So any questions so far, by the way? I guess you guys remember the Google Meet chat rules about how like you have your mics muted, but I'm always looking at chat if you have any questions. So any questions, I'll just be looking at chat, and feel free to type them at any time. Or any comments as well. Okay, so those are arguments and functions in Python. So we actually need to talk about the syntax of calling a function. So today we're not going to be learning how to create our own functions because we need to learn a little bit more. We learn a couple more concepts before we get into doing that. But today we will be learning how to use built-in functions in Python. So the Python syntax for calling a function is the name of the function, parentheses, and then in between there you would pass an argument, so whatever your argument is. So if we had a clean room function, we created it and it had all the steps to clean your room. If the argument was fast, maybe that argument means skip some of these steps and do this. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. Okay, yeah, no questions so far. Once again, I don't know if I said this clearly, but if you have any questions or comments, I'm always looking at the Google Meet chat, so feel free to ask them there. Okay, so that's the syntax for calling a function in Python. Okay, so we're going to be talking about a built-in function. The print function is what we call it. I guess we should do an introduction to it. So the easiest way to get your Python program to communicate with you is by using the print function. The print function prints a specified message out to the console. So the console is basically where you see the return for your script. It's where you see the output that the computer has for what you told it to do. So yeah, we have the print function being used here. In between the parentheses, we have our argument. And in this case, the argument is pretty much everything for the print function, so we need it. So yeah, in the print function, we print whatever we want to see in the console. So what we're actually going to do now is that, actually, we're going to do one more thing before we start getting into that. And yeah, so we're going to talk about variables a little bit, and then we'll move on to the IDE for a second. Okay. So we're going to talk about variables in math first. I have a feeling we're all familiar with variables, but it's all right if we're not. So in math, a variable is a letter or symbol that is used to represent any number. A variable is usually subject to change, I believe. And yeah, so here's just an example of variable you could see in math. This is just a very simple equation, I guess you'd say. So 4 plus x equals 8, and we can, with doing algebra, we can tell that x equals to 4, and 4 plus 4 does equal to 8. Okay, I tried Python today, but it was way different from what is on screen. We're about to go into the are you talking about the idle, the IDLE? Also, what is on screen currently is a slides presentation, by the way. This is not the IDLE. This is a Google Slides presentation. Hopefully that answers your question. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so variables in Python. So the way we use variables in math is somewhat similar to the way we use them in Python. Python uses variables to define things that are subject to change. Creating a variable and assigning a value is actually very easy in Python. So we just use the equal signs. We have our name first, and then we have the equal signs. And then we have our value. So in this case, mood is assigned the value of happy. So that's pretty much it. You just created your own variable in Python. So Deji, I hope I answered your question. Currently what is on screen, I hope I'm sharing the correct screen. Currently what is on screen is a slide presentation. This is not Python. Hopefully I answered your question. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so rules for Python variables. So when creating a variable, it cannot start with a number. Instead, it must start with a letter or underscore character. Actually, one second. Let me make sure my internet isn't down right now. Okay, yeah, so we are good. Okay, yeah, we're good. Sorry, I just thought my internet was down because somebody's frozen. Okay, so the second rule is that a variable name can only start with a letter or underscore character. A variable name can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscores, so just A to Z. And yeah, so something important is that cannot start with a number. And variables are case sensitive. That's something else that is really important. So here I have examples of just different lines of text. So we have hello, hello again with a capital H at the beginning, and then hello all capitals. So Python would actually perceive this as all different values. It wouldn't perceive it as the same, as a human might do. And yeah, hopefully that makes sense. So it is case sensitive. So yeah, you could assign each of these their own variable, independent variable. Okay, we're gonna talk about one last thing. Okay, that's not what I mean. That's why when I tried them in row table, I typed it. Okay, we'll be going into the Python IDL in a moment. I'm kind of confused by your question, but I think we can figure it out. Okay, so we're going to talk briefly about data types. Okay, so Python data types. We're going to go into IDLE currently right now. So let's go out of here. I'm going to open up the Python IDLE. I'm on the latest version. Yeah, you can also, you can share your screen at the end. That would be great. Okay, I'm just waiting for it to load up. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm in the Python shell currently. And now I'm just going to create a new file because that is what we need. I'm going to drag that over here. In the next class, I'm just showing you guys this for this class because this is probably what you have currently. But in the next class, I will be using another IDE that's a lot more efficient than this one, I guess I could say. And yes, we can, this is Python IDLE, and we learned about functions. So we call on the print function. So we learned that. So it's print, and then here we have whatever values in between here. So this is where we pass our argument. So different things can be passed here, especially with the print, is just something to appear in the console. So I could pass maybe hello. We're about to actually get into what these double or single quotations, do. So we're about to get into that. So I could pass hello. I wanted to say hello in the console. This is just an example of using a function. Of course, I'd have to save my work, so let me save that right now. Test 4. Okay, so it's saved. Now I can run this out to the console and I can see my output. So in the console right here, I'll just go like this. So in the console right here, I had print hello, and then the output was hello over here. So hopefully that makes sense about how a function works. So you called on it. So in real life, of course, this is an analogy, but you could have a function, maybe instead of print, it could be clean room, and then the argument could be fast. So then it would show the steps for cleaning your room fast, which means it skips some things. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense. So Deji, having trouble understanding your question. That's not what I mean when I try to. Okay, yeah, I'm having trouble understanding your question, but I can look into it after class, after video on my computer. Then there's just share. Oh, are you watching this on your phone? Okay, that might work. I'm not sure. Okay, so we're just gonna minimize this. We're gonna go back to slash presentation. So hopefully we understand Python functions. So something else we can actually look at as well is variables. So we learned about assigning variables. So we can create a variable. We know it can't go one hello because it can't start with a number. Then something it can do though is that it can go like hello, just like that. Okay, I'm gonna put in equal signs and I'm gonna assign it a value. In this case, I'm just going to assign it the value of 4, okay? So now we've created a variable and we've assigned it the value 4. So now I'm going to use the print function. Once again, it's a built-in function in Python. And I can say print hello. So print this variable and whatever it's equal to. I'll just go like that. Okay, so could somebody in the chat type what you guys believe the output would be if I currently did this? So I have it assigned hello, and I say print hello. So will this do my imagined output? Will this do what I want it to do? Okay, we're just gonna continue going. So this will actually not do what I intended for because this is capital I. Oh, please wait. I guess I just said the answer already, so I'll just continue. But it's all right. So yeah, this will not do what I intended it to do because it is capitalized, and we have to remember that Python is case sensitive. So this needs to be lowercase as well. So now we can save our work, of course, because we have to save it before we run our code. And we can run this again. Let me just put this to the side. So we can run our work again. So I'm just going to run module. And then to the left, we have our output being 4, because that's what we send the variable hello to. So hopefully that makes sense. We're going to go back to the presentation now. So I'm going to, I guess I'll just minimize this for now. So opening the presentation, present, there we go. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next topic now. Hopefully right now we've covered functions and variables, but now we're going to talk about something that actually has to do with both, which is data types. Okay, so in Python, a data type is a category for the type of variable or for the type of data a variable holds. So there are four main data types in Python, and you'll most likely be using all of them a lot more than the remaining data types. So there are strings, integers, floats, and booleans. So what you might be wondering right now is, why do we have data types in Python? So something to mention, actually, just in general, is that a lot of times computers can be very smart, but sometimes they also need a little bit of help to get the right answer. Computers like having things clearly specified, especially in Python. It's necessary, just as we can see with case sensitivity and all that type of stuff. And when things are not clearly specified, you start running into problems. So it's a lot harder for a computer to assume things as we do as humans. So maybe if we're giving it an equation to perform, if it doesn't know the exact category, it might not even know if an integer it might not even know the difference from an integer and a string. Isn't date or currency a part of data types? I'm not too sure about that. I'll look it up in a moment, but I know these are the four main ones. I know uh, isn't date or currency a part of Python data types? Date or currency. Oh, yep. Or oh yeah. I don't believe. No, I don't believe so. I think I was mixing up date with a module in Python. No, I don't believe so. So there are, okay, yeah, we discussed this. Uh, so yeah, we discussed why we need data types in Python. And so we're going to talk about the first data type. In my textbook, it says so. Right now, I said we're going to be discussing the four main data types. These are ones you're probably going to be using most often. I'm not sure if date or currency are part of the Python data types. I guess I need to learn them, or I'm not familiar with them, or I don't remember them right now. And yeah, so we're just going to continue with the presentation. So we're discussing the four main ones, and these are these are the ones we need to know to continue on with this course, and yeah, to get to the next steps of what we're going to be doing in the future. So we're going to learn strings, integers, floats, and booleans. We talked about why we have data types in Python and strings. So yeah, strings are a data type in Python. Text in Python is considered a specific type of data type called or string. It's called a string because it's a series of letters, numbers, or symbols connected in an order, like it's threaded together by a string. To define a string, you need to have double quotations or single quotations around your text. So below, we have assigned the variable x a string data type. So we have x is equal to test 1, 2, 3, 4. So once again, it's a string because it's a series of letters, numbers, or symbols connected like it's a string. And yeah, so in between the double quotations, we have test 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've just mixed up normal alpha. We've mixed up the alphabet with numbers, and it works because it is a string. And we can also do the same thing with single quotations. So it's up to personal preference if you want to use single or double quotations, but whichever one you use, you should stick to it and be consistent. Okay, continue on. So integers. So besides just text, variables can also hold pure numeric values. Integers are a data type in Python. An integer is just a whole number with no decimal point. Integers do not require single or double quotations surrounding them. So above, once again here, we have assigned the variable x an integer data type. So just 5. Okay, so next we're talking about floats. So floats are another data type in Python. We call a number with a decimal point, or a number with a decimal point is called a float. So just like integers, floats do not require double or single quotations surrounding them. So here we have an example of a float again. So we've assigned the variable x a float data type. So 4 point, I'll turn the laser point, 44.4. So that is a float. Okay. So next we're talking about Booleans. Boolean is another data type in Python, and this holds two possible values being true or false. Boolean does not require double or single quotations surrounding them as well. Something important to note about Boolean data types is that that the first letter, or sorry, the first character is capitalized. So the T in true or the F in false has to be capitalized for it to be recognized as a Boolean data type. So any questions so far? I'll look at chat now. Those are implications of data. Okay, no questions at all. Any questions? Okay. Okay, if there are no questions so far, we will continue on. So yeah, that's great that you guys are understanding everything. So now that we've actually learned this, we're going to move on to we're going to move on to the IDLE. I'm just going to minimize this again. I'm going to open up everything we had previously open. Okay, so I have a bit of a test for you guys. I guess I'll go full screen for this for now. And yeah, I'm just going to test your understanding. So I'm going to create some variables, A, B, C, D, equal to hello. Sorry, actually no. It's going to be equal to true. Okay, so I've created some variables and I've assigned them values. So could somebody type in chat what the data type of the variable A is? What has been assigned? In chat, please. So hopefully you can see my screen. So please tell me what the variable A has been assigned, what type of data type it has been assigned, so what category that is in. Okay, so that's all right if we don't know. The variable A has been assigned a Boolean data type, or sorry, a string data type because it's surrounded by quotations. You might have gotten mixed up with strings and Booleans, but it's been assigned a string. I'm just writing extra text. This has been assigned a Boolean because we can see that it's non-quotations and the first character is capitalized. So this is a Boolean data type. Okay, so for 24, we can see that it has been assigned an integer data type because it's a whole number with no decimals. So integer. And then for the variable D, it has been assigned a float data type because it does have decimals or other numbers coming after it. It's not a whole number. So we would say float. So this is a float data type. So these are pretty much the four main, these are the ones you're going to be using most often, definitely. Okay. So these are the data types. Any questions? Let me look. Character type of data. Could you ask that question? Is that a question or sorry, could you ask that question again? Character type of data. For option A. For option A, this is a string data type. We would call this a string data type because it can also contain numbers as well as letters. So we say it's a string because once again, it's like it's threaded together by a string. It's gonna be a mix of all. You can usually tell a string because it has double or single quotations surrounding them. That's usually the best way. You call it a string data type, not character type of data, not character data type. So yeah, this is a string. Boolean is just true or false. So this could also just be false. Integer is just a whole number. So I can actually just remove this stuff. This is just extra to show what it's pointing at. Okay. Anyways, I have a question for you guys because you answered this in chat for me because you guys are, yeah, you guys are obviously know what you're doing or intelligent. Sorry. So could you guys tell me what I would use to print something to the console? I want to communicate with my Python console. So what Python function could I use? I want to build in one as well. So what could I use? to do that. What is Boolean again? Okay, I'll answer some time. A Boolean is either true or false. So that's a Boolean data type. And you can recognize it especially because a Boolean data type has a capital T or capital F for the true or false. And what's it called? It does not have double or single quotations surrounding them. Because if you did put double or single quotations surrounding them, it would turn it into a string. Okay, what we're gonna do? So yeah, could you guys tell me what? Okay, yeah, no problem. Could you tell me what function I would use to communicate with my program and get something, anything I want to print to the console? So what function would I use? It's built in as well. Input, close almost. So we discussed it a bit earlier. It's used, I want something to, let me see how I can say this. I want something to show up in the console. So I want to type something like hello, and I want to be able to read it in the console afterwards. Almost like I'm printing it to the console. What function would I use? Database. Okay. Those are all actually good guesses. The name of the function we use to communicate with our program the easiest is the print function. So with the print function, again, we can basically say it just prints out whatever we want to the console. So this is a function, and the steps it basically does is not that many steps technically. It just takes what you wrote and it prints it to the console. So in the argument, we would pass what we wanted to say. So we can pass different types of data types. We can pass integer data types, so we can just pass a number 3. We can pass string data types, so we can put hello, greeting, and we can pass many different things. We can also pass Boolean, of course, and floats. So yeah, the print function is what we use. We're actually going to put that in use. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to move this to the side of the screen so we can have our file open where we can edit stuff, and then we can see our output over here. So to the right is where I'm going to be writing code, so you should be looking there currently. Okay, so what we're going to do is that I want a greeting to print to the console. So down here, I want it to say, hello, how are you? So I can use the print function to do that. So I can go print, let me just make sure everything's lowercase, print, and then I would have to have, hello, how are you? Okay, so could you guys, am I missing something here, guys? Is this perfect, or am I missing something? What do I need to add in order to make this a string, since I do want a string data type, of course? Quotes. Okay, yep, you're right. So I need double or single quotations, so I'm going to put that around. I personally use single quotations just because I don't have to use a shift to activate double quotations. And yeah, so I can say, hello, how are you? Of course, I can change this to whatever I want. I can do 1, 2, 3 at the front. And I have to save this, of course. So I save, and then I have to press the option to run. So I run it, and then we can look down here. It tells me what file is actually being run. So it's my test44.py, and you can see it's open over here as well. And then it prints this to the console. So 1, 2, 3, hello, how are you? So does that make sense to everybody? Any questions surrounding that? Good answer, by the way. I think I forgot how to pronounce your name. Advait. I'm not sure. So yeah, any questions surrounding like using this? We can, once again, we can do this with other things. So if I want to just do a pure integer, I can do that as well. I didn't get the explanation. Explanation specifically on what? On using the print function? Okay, so I'm going to give another example about cleaning your room again, just to talk about functions. So functions, okay. So we know that functions are basically steps that can be activated just from like a statement or an action. So this is going to be outside completely from actually writing Python, just going to be an example. So a function could be cleaning your room, okay? Cleaning your room. So cleaning your room has multiple steps. Let me just add some steps for us to add or to write on. So the first step maybe could be sweeping. The next step could be, I don't know, mopping, vacuuming. I'm not sure. But yeah, you kind of hopefully you kind of get it. It's just like steps you have to clean your room, okay? So that's basically a function. So in Python, we also have functions like this. So we can activate it just from saying something. So this function can be activated maybe by your mom saying or your dad saying, clean your room. So clean your room. So if somebody says clean your room to you, that might activate this function, cleaning the room, and then you'll perform the steps. So that's pretty much what a function in Python does, except of course it's computers talking. So what we're going to do now, we're going to use a built-in function. So we have the function print. So we actually need to know the print function before we start using it. So what the print function does is it's not as complicated as cleaning your room. It's not as changing as much. So the print function, it takes the argument, and then what it does next is that it prints the console. Or let me go like this, prints it to console. So that's like the simplest way of putting it. It just does these two steps basically. So it takes your argument, so it's the value you put in here, and it shows it to you in console. So that's what this function does. So what we can say up here is that now we can put our values. So this has to do with data types again. So we put our strings, and I say the argument in this case is a string data type that is maybe hello. So what it's going to do is that's going to print this to console because it's performing those two steps of taking what's in here and then printing it into console. So that's another function. So this is functions of computers and then functions in the real world. So yeah, I can save this, of course. So I saved it, then I can run. And then over here, if you look to the left side of the screen, we can see hello, it printed it to the console. So hopefully that makes sense about how that function works. So something I mentioned earlier as well is that in Python, you can create your own function. So basically by creating your own function, maybe you're creating something new. So you're creating a function for drying dry paint. You're creating a function for getting paint to dry faster, okay? So that could have steps, maybe you need to do stuff for that. Or maybe you're even creating a function for making pancakes. You can say make pancakes, and then the steps for making pancakes are maybe 1, get the batter, 2, heat up the oven, 3, blah, blah, blah. Hopefully you get the idea. So does that make sense about functions? Deji, does that kind of help your explanation? I'm not sure if I explained that well. So I'll just wait in chat for your response and then we'll continue on. So hopefully that helps your explanation. Anybody else have questions about functions? Because it's hard to wrap your head around the first time. Once again, it's like just basically like one thing you can do that performs a series of steps, I guess you'd say. So yeah, when I say clean your room and like making pancakes or drying paint, those were examples in the real world, and we can relate that to Python. So there are many built-in functions in Python, and then you can create your own as well. So I was just showing print today because that's one of the simplest ones and ones we should know because it can be useful at times. And yeah. What is the difference? Musab, M equals Musab in the ands. Difference X equals. Okay, so I'm gonna try to mimic what you're doing. I don't understand your question too much. So it looks like you've created a variable X and you assigned it the value of Musab. You don't need to put parentheses around that. I might have misunderstood your question. But Musab, basically, when do I need quotation marks and parentheses? Okay, so when you're assigning a value to a variable, you do not need parentheses. You just need your string. In the future, we'll be doing that. In the future, we'll be talking about other stuff related to that. I'm not going to spoil it for now. But currently, if you're trying to assign Musab the variable or assign Musab the value X the variable Oh my gosh. If you're trying to assign the variable x the value of a string musab, all you need to do is this. You do not need to use parentheses. So we only use parentheses when we're using a function. So that's what we call it a function. So it's example function, and we have the parentheses. So in between these parentheses is where we pass the argument. So currently right now, when we're just creating a simple, or when we're assigning a value to a variable simply, we do not need parentheses. So yeah, the current times you're going to need quotations or single quotations or double quotations is when you are using a string, when you're creating a string data type. So hopefully that answers your question. I'm not sure. Okay. So yeah, I believe I was doing explanation. Let me actually do control Z on that. So yeah, I don't know if I tested it out for you guys yet, but what we're going to do is that we're actually going to create a variable called greet. So we're going to assign this a string value. So in this case, it's going to be hello, how are you? So once we have it assigned it, whatever value we want, now we're actually going to use the print function, and we're going to tell it to print out this variable specifically. So it actually saves us time from writing out whatever we want to print each time. So I can do print. By the way, you should be looking at the right side of the screen currently. We're going to do print, and we actually don't need double or single quotations because we're not defining a string. We're just calling on a variable. So since it's just a pure variable, we just literally have to write the variable name. So greet. So if I did something actually, like, once again, just to re-emphasize, if I did greet with capital G and I save this and run it, I would get an error because this is not a variable. But if I did decide to change this variable up here to the capital G, run. Actually, I'm just gonna do it like this, just keep it simple. So I'm going to go lowercase g now, save, run module. Now we will get hello, how are you as our output. So in the future, what we're actually going to be learning to do, instead of just only being able to print stuff to the console, we're also going to learn how to get it to take users' input and then respond in a way. So that's what we're going to be doing in the future. So any questions at all? So any questions? Let me scroll down. I want the number to be an integer. Yeah, so for integers, once again, you do not need double or single quotations or quotes surrounding them. For floats, you don't need them. For Booleans, you don't need them. Really, right now, for us, we only need them for strings. And once again, something else to note is that you also can't mix up a double and single quotation. So you have to use either or. So I cannot go like this because I'm using two different types of quotations. If we save this and run it, I believe we will get a bad, yep, see, it tells us about the error actually. So on this line. So it needs to use the same one. So I can either use double, so I'll just use double, or I can use single. Save and run and output. Hello, how are you? Okay, so does anybody else have any questions while I'm here before I leave this IDLE, the idle? I'll just stay here for a bit and see if you guys want me to try anything, any like things you want me to confirm for you guys. Okay, I'm gonna wait like a minute and then I'll just leave this idle and we'll go back. We'll leave idle. Can we make it save our answer? So can we make it save our answer? Save our answer. What is the answer? So I can know specifically what you're talking about. What if have to join any other statement to what if you have to join like hi and then how are you? Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. So the next class we're actually talking about, that's another arithmetic operator. We're actually going to be using that next class. But I guess if we want to get ahead, sure, yeah, you can do stuff like that. You can use the plus, or you can actually use a comma. Typically, you want to use the plus because it's a lot better of representing what you're trying to do. So you can do O plus. I'm actually going to put a space after here so it's spaced out. Or actually, I won't the first time. So O plus breeds. So I'm not sure if I'm not looking for errors right now. I think I did correctly. So yeah, we can see, oh, hello, how are you? So down over here on the bottom left side of the screen. So right now it's not spaced out because we didn't, because right now it's combined because we literally just said add it 100% complete. So what we can do is I can just add a space here. I can save my work now and I'll run it again. Now we can see, oh, hello, how are you with the space. So yeah, you can add things with the plus symbol. Next class, I was planning to talk about using the arithmetic operators and operators in general more. But yeah, so let me see. I think there's another question I say you can join things. It can also be two variables you add. Of course, it doesn't just have to be two different things. You can add two variables. And yeah, okay. So hopefully that answers all the questions. We're gonna get out of here now. I'll just if there are any like last questions anyone wants to ask before I close this. Okay, because in C sharp, it's like we can do it by assigning it a variable like. Okay, that's cool. I don't know C sharp. That's cool. Okay, so let's close out of here now, and we're going to go back to the presentation quickly and start wrapping up. So yeah, we discussed. Let's just go through our checklist to make sure we know everything before we close out, and we call it a day. So just waiting for this to load. Okay, so we learned what Python functions are, hopefully. We learned how to use the print function. We learned what Python variables are. We learned how to assign values to variables. We learned the main Python data types and how we use them. So last thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to type something in chat, and I'd like you guys to tell me if it is what type of data type it is. So please keep an eye on chat right now. We're just going to do that quickly, and we'll call it a class. So could somebody tell me what type of data type that is? So what would be considered in Python? What type of data type that would be considered? I don't know if the responses are delayed. Okay, string. Okay, great. So yeah, hopefully you guys understand it. Great. It is a string because I have double or single quotations surrounding it, and yeah, it is a string. So somebody tell me what this is, because this one is a harder term to know off the top of your head, but it's nice to know. So what data type is that? And then we'll call it a class. I'll show the homework or the extra activities. Boolean. Okay, yeah, great. Okay, so let's move on to the closing slides. You guys did great today, by the way. Yeah, we learned a lot of stuff fast. And then if you want a sneak peek to next class, we're talking about arithmetic operators. I believe we're also talking about the input function, so we can also collect users' input. But okay, so there's, okay, I believe my microphone was muted. So there's not a lot of extra activities for today. It's very simple. All I'd like you guys to do is please complete the lesson 2 to 10 for Python 3 tutorial on Sollearn, and then submit a screenshot of your completion under the assignment on Google Classroom. So yeah, Python lesson 2 to 10, because we did only lesson 1 last class. And now we've learned the stuff from lesson 2 to 10, so we're ready for that. So any questions at all? Otherwise, we'll wrap up the class, and yeah, you guys did good. Advi, could you tell me how to pronounce your name again? Ave? Anyways, that's the end of the class, guys. Yeah, that's the assignment. You submit a screenshot of the completion. Also, Advey, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Maybe you could teach C sharp. You could teach C sharp to people. That'd be cool. Underlearningwithme.org. Where do we send the screenshot? I believe the assignment's about to be posted on Google Classroom. It's about to be posted on Google Classroom, I believe. I think it's posted exactly at 1. Okay. Okay, so thank you guys for joining me. Hopefully we learned something new today, or we learned a lot of things new today. Yeah, great questions. And yeah. Okay, so I'll talk to you guys later. Bye. Thank you for joining.